The Gotham Knight's release date is sneaking up on us, just like my confused sexuality sneaks up on me every time I see that infamous crime-fighting masked vigilante suit up in his black, slick, tightly worn spandex. Now with that in mind, I've been bravely resisting the temptation of jumping back into Batman Arkham Knight to save myself for the upcoming Gotham Knight instead. But my excitement started to shrivel as I started watching the gameplay demos of Gotham Knights, and the gameplay showcase raised more than just a few concerns.
Wait a minute!
Just like that, I soon remembered that there's only one superhero for me. So I installed Batman Arkham Knight before remembering that there was quite a lot of animosity towards the plotline of Arkham Knight and the excessive use of the Batmobile throughout the game. Now, although some of the criticism is warranted, Batman Arkham Knight is far from a write-off, and in my opinion, it more than holds its own in the phenomenal Arkham series of games, and just like the first time I played, it still baffles me that there's so many gamers out there that feel like Warner Brothers let the whole series down.
You trusted me. And I failed you.
I do think there's some validity to people's unhappiness with the plotline though, and I'm not convinced Rocksteady and Warner Brothers really knew themselves what the plan was narratively speaking. Before Arkham Knight came Arkham City, and this entry into the series was proven to be pre-planned, even before the very first Arkham game released, which was Batman Arkham Asylum. This was proven after an extremely well-hidden Easter egg showed a map of Arkham City stamped with the word approved in a secret room within the Warden's office. Arkham City had pretty much every villain in the game, and the story was rounded off nicely, making it feel like a lot of the narrative within Arkham Knight was just shoehorned in to capitalise on the huge popularity of the series and giving reason to releasing another Arkham game. There's an Arkham City spoiler here coming up, so for those who haven't played, switch off now. At the end of the game, the Joker dies, and I think Warner Brothers knew that this was by far the death of the best character in the series. The solution to the problem Warner Brothers had created for themselves no doubt gave the Marvel fanboys a chuckle or two, because the writers not only decided to have Batman miss some of the Joker's infected blood, which was making its way to the Gotham's hospitals to be transfused into the innocent, which turns them into, that's right,
Joker.
But the writers even decided to delve deeper into Batman's psyche, and thanks to the power of the Scarecrow's magic gas, poor old Batman himself was being fused with the Joker's mind.
Look at me! I'm amazing! And this body! Oh, don't act all surprised, Bats. You knew this was going to happen sooner or later. Me stuck deep inside you.
You serious?
Now, as laughable as this is on paper, they actually executed the Joker's invasion of Batman's mind pretty well throughout the story. I really enjoyed the regular cameos of the Joker as he appears in random spots throughout Arkham to fester his twisted and often hilarious opinions into Batman's mind. One area of the narrative I felt was really weak was the Arkham Knight himself. I won't spoil who he is for those who've never played before, but there was promise of an original character, and the man under the mask was far from original and about as surprising as the reveal of a Scooby-Doo villain. The whole story surrounding the mystery of Arkham Knight felt extremely flat, when you could just sense that with Warner Brothers' marketing of the game, they were really just pulling the wool over our eyes with this mystery character, and even though they executed the Joker and his multiple attempts at breaking Batman really well, I think that they were hoping that players would see the eventual reveal of Arkham Knight as some epic series-defining moment.
I don't even know what I'm talking to.
Then maybe your best course would be to tread lightly.
The Batmobile quickly became the elephant in the room for a lot of players, and some would argue that it even spoiled the overall experience. I totally disagree with that, but I do feel sorry for the players who were looking forward to the experience of getting behind the wheel of the infamous Batmobile and feeling nothing but frustration. Personally, I love the Batmobile. The engine sounds incredible and the overall controls feel tight. The variety within the combat, from full-speed car chases, side-smashing vehicles while clipping concrete corners of buildings and taking huge chunks out of them. Then there's the more methodical battle mode, upgrading its arsenal as you progress from satisfying missile dodges, retaliating with well-placed shots of your own, or getting more tactical and overriding the drones to turn them against the enemy. Then what really surprised me was there was even a stealth aspect to driving this bombastic tank, stalking the Arkham Knight's lethal Cobra tanks around the narrow streets of Gotham in a game of cat and mouse before sneaking up behind it to unload a 60mm round into its weak spot. It's all extremely satisfying. I think where I agree with a lot of people's frustrations was the over-dependency on the Batmobile, whether it was being used in a boss battle too often, ruining that potentially fiery one-on-one encounter, removing the intense close quarters feeling, or simply just being cumbersome to use during the Riddler's puzzles. Oh yeah, and some of these puzzles, by the way, they just feel utterly pointless. There's 243 of them, and you'll need to collect them all to unlock the true ending of the game, and far too many of them just felt like content fluff just to beef up the game. Don't get me wrong, some were real head scratchers, but some of these riddles, Jesus, it just felt like the developers weren't even trying to challenge the player.
What color is a carrot?
Carrot? I think it's a carrot. Carrot, but I don't know about carrots. I don't know nothing about that.
So when it comes to combat, this is the guaranteed satisfaction you get when you install any of the Batman Arkham games. As the series has reached its conclusion, the combat mechanics peaked, feeling as crisp, fluid and as gratifying as ever. Most of the moves are familiar to previous entries, but there's some extremely pleasurable use of the environment, creative combos with an AI fighting partner, and even some hard-hitting takedowns, setting an enemy up for the Batmobile to knock him out of the park. I would have liked to have seen some new additions to the stealth mechanics though, because it always feels a little overly dependent on opportunistic moments rather than creating more of the stealth moments for yourself with different use of gadgets. The ragdoll effects of the enemies are still a little weird looking, but Batman's animations though, they're seriously badass. I still felt there wasn't enough enemy variety though. You've got your basic thugs, medics, brutes and these ninja-like combat experts. They were the best to fight, offering a much needed variety to the fighting style of everyone else, but a little more variation wouldn't have gone amiss.
I've punched out 4 Homer Simpson shaped burglars tonight alone.
Like I mentioned before, there's 243 Riddler trophies to collect, which isn't the end of the world because free roaming feels more fun than it ever has in an Arkham game, with a Batmobile to add an alternative way to getting around and a more upgradable suit to make use of the city's verticality. Roaming the city is so much fun, and it's inevitable you'll be doing plenty of it as you start wandering away from the main storyline to work your way through the huge list of villains wreaking havoc on Gotham. Some of these quest lines are amazing. One in particular was hunting down these bodies that have been strung up and can be found by listening out for this creepy opera music. This quest line really makes use of the D in DC Comics, and playing detective was a nice change in the pace to the typical way that Batman approaches these quests. Having said that, some of these quests were incredibly dull at times, short-lived, and the writing behind these quests felt a little phoned in, if I'm honest, to the point where some of them just felt really poop.
Ugh, I don't need to know about that.
Now, Batman is hands down my favourite superhero, and the Arkham games are easily my favourite superhero games to date. Arkham Knight might have dropped the ball a little when it comes to the narrative, but the hate towards the Batmobile feels a little unfair in my opinion. All in all, it's a game that's totally worth your time, and who knows, if Gotham Knights turns out to be how a lot of people are fearing, then maybe we'll start to look back at Arkham Knight a little more fondly. Anyway, let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next one.